So, how are you? Well, my name is Danny Sierra, and I'm part of the Hack team here at the Research Center for Open Digital Innovation. And I would like you to introduce yourself.
So, hi, my name is Dan Zheng. I'm a sophomore in computer science at Purdue University.
Okay, great. So, thank you for taking your time to be part of this interview. We want to learn about your coding experience in the Black Hat Hack throughout the set of questions. So, please answer these truthfully and to the best of your knowledge. So we will record these answers, but we only use it for scientific purposes. We will also delete the recording after interview following scientific standards. After the interview, you will receive an online survey, and upon the survey and only the completion, you will receive this gift card. So the research question: how does the Iron Hack, as a virtual hacking competition process, facilitate the hacker's development process? So the objective of this is to create a narrative of the process from the start to the final summation. So what do you think about the virtual hacking competition, Daniel?
I think it can be done very well. I think hackers can make a lot of progress and learn a lot throughout the competition. But due to the nature of it being virtual, I think there's less incentive for hackers to really stay on top of things. So I think they have to be very personally interested in order to continue with the competition and do well.
All right. So what were your motive? If you look back 3 weeks to the first info session to the Iron Hack, what made you want to participate?
For me, I think it would be mostly the prizes, but also some personal interest in learning more about how to use data sets and how to make the app.
Great. How was the informational presentation for you, the first one?
I think it was very good. I wouldn't improve anything about the actual presentation itself.
Okay. Did you use the training material from the hack, or how did you make use of it?
So I did use it a little bit, but I found the tutorials were a bit lacking, although the presentation itself was good. I think tutorials could be improved by making some parts more modular. So saying, this part is a tutorial for D3 and just D3. This part is a tutorial for just how to use API. Because the tutorial is set up so that everything is sort of mashed together into one file. So I think that part could be improved. I think I started out using the tutorial that's provided, but then I looked elsewhere for more resources on how to learn how to use these technologies.
Great. So let's talk about the first submission. Describe the process and how you worked on your first app before the first submission deadline. What barriers did you encounter?
So I actually did not do very much for the first submission. All I really did was I did a bit of research about the datasets I wanted to use, and I finished the README file for the first submission. So no major obstacles, I guess, for the first submission, but for me it was a lot of brainstorming and preparatory work.
And how did you try to understand the problem?
I really looked closely at the prompt for IronHack about Zika virus and from Purdue to Miami. So I thought about that, and I thought about some factors or some data sets I could incorporate, such as temperature, climate, like mosquito season, those sort of things.
When did you work during the day?
What's that?
When did you work during the day?
Mostly late at night, probably after 6 p.m.
Okay, and where did you work?
Just in my dorm where I live. Yeah, somewhere that's comfortable for
me. Okay, so tell me, how do you use GitHub? Your work offline or document everything?
So I try to be pretty modular. So I have experience with GitHub, so I try to make a commit every time I make one change or one more feature.
Yeah. How do you integrate the libraries? D3.js.
I installed, I think, maybe one or two of them using Node Package Manager because I use Node for the backend for my project. But the rest, I just used the static JavaScript file. I just downloaded it from the internet and I used it in my project. So that was pretty straightforward.
Great. How many iterations did you make before submitting your first submission?
Very few. Basically just a README file. So maybe one or two.
Great. Did you ask for extra help?
Definitely,
Professor, friends?
definitely not for the first submission. No.
Okay. Was there anything holding you back from submitting?
No.
Okay. How was the process? How you worked for the second app on the second submission?
For the second submission, I think I tried to incorporate Google Maps. That was my main goal. So I started making the basic site. So it was a full-page application with just the Google Maps.
Mm-hmm. Great. What did you submit? I mean, what was the comment that you make on the second one?
So by the end of the second submission, I had a application that was basically straight from the Google Maps example. It's a functional map that allows you to enter a starting place and a destination, and it'll show you the route.
Okay. How do you integrate the libraries at that time?
I didn't use any datasets at that point, except just the Google Maps API.
Okay, just that.
Yeah.
All right. Did you ask for help?
No help. Everything came from the internet, from Google Maps, their documentation.
Mm-hmm. After the first submission, what was the feedback from the judges?
I think it was pretty poor. It wasn't very informative because I didn't give much. It was just a README file.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to it because I knew most of my work would lay ahead. If that makes sense.
Great. Okay. So on the second submission, was anything holding you back from submitting? Did you say that you needed something else to submit for the deadline? For the second?
No.
So how many iterations do you make before submitting your second submission?
Maybe 2 or 3. Also, it was pretty simple. I tested various examples from the Google Maps documentation, and I picked one that I wanted to use for my project.
Mm-hmm.
So also pretty straightforward. No obstacles.
Great. How was the third submission? Describe the process.
So for the third submission, I think that's the one that I did the most work on up to this point. So I incorporated the weather API. So this was 2 datasets. One was the required one from Climate Data Online, and one was from a third party. It's a commercial API from Wonderground, which is used to power weather.com. So at this point, I included D3 and C3 for some data visualization, and it was more of a functional app. So in addition to the routes, there was also some weather information.
Great. So how many iterations did you make before submitting?
Probably 10 to 20. And the iterations started off from getting it to work in the beginning, and then adding styling and different things to make it look like I wanted it to look on the site, and getting rid of some bugs.
Great. From whom did you seek for help?
Mostly Google. I looked at Stack Overflow for some solutions for common problems, and also for the examples and documentation for D3 and C3 for various problems I had with the charts.
What about the feedback from the judge after the second submission? How did you use the feedback from the judges? How did you make use of score? How did you make use of the evaluation template?
So my strategy was to, at the end of every iteration, I basically wanted my app to look nice. So I wanted no visual bugs. So I paid most attention to that category in the evaluation. So I noticed that the judges said that the visual aspect of my project should be improved. So I really tried to make sure there were no bugs for the third submission.
Okay. Was that something holding you back from submitting?
No, I just put more work into it. It wasn't like up to the deadline for that one, so it was okay.
Okay. How do you make use of the material from the training during this process?
Pretty little. Mostly, I looked for documentation and examples from the original websites of the technologies.
But why?
I think there's more variety in those. So for the example Iron Hack project, it's just one sample with the one chart they have. And for my project, I use different charts. So on the D3 and C3 websites, they have a variety of examples that are available. So I thought that was a better resource than just the one that's available from the tutorial.
All right. So to wrap up, how did you experience the overall 3 weeks hacking process?
I felt it was really good. For me, myself, I tried to pace myself. So I didn't procrastinate too much, but I did do more work during the second half for sure. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I learned a lot and it was a lot of fun.
What were the general learning outcomes from the hack?
General learning outcome? I feel like I learned a lot, mostly about how to use datasets. I have some experience with data visualization using D3, so that wasn't the hardest part for me. For me, it was finding the datasets and then transforming them into a useful sort of format.
Okay. Is there anything you would have done differently if you ran the Iron hacks?
If I had run the Iron hacks, I think I would have improved the tutorials to be a bit more friendly for participants. I had little difficulty because I have experience with these libraries, and I knew where to look for examples documentation online outside of just the tutorial that's provided. But I think the resources that are given to us by Iron hacks could have been improved.
Okay, right. Compare the Iron hacks to other hacks on campus or traditional hacks. What's the difference between them? Or what do you find valuable on on this one and the other traditional hacks?
I've been to quite a few other hackathons. I think the advantage of those is sort of freedom. So there's very rarely a theme that you have to follow. If you have an idea you want to do, you can just do it. And
here on this virtual hacking.
For other hackathons.
Oh, for other one.
For other ones. So
there are 24 and there are 24 hours or 54 hours.
Yeah. And also that one is shorter, so it forces you to be very focused on what you want to do and making sure that you have a minimal viable product. So the most basic thing that works, sort of. So it makes you more focused. Whereas for the second
and what about this one?
This one is more of like a marathon. So there is a very specific goal, but you have a lot of time to think about what you want to do, and that leads you, that gives you some freedom in what you do. So you don't have to devote all of your time to just making sure something is functional. You can make it look nice. You can, take care of some styling along the way, which is what I did. And it gives you more time to incorporate features if you think of something new. So it's not like time is a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what motivated you? What motivated you on each round?
For me, it was basically looking at the goals I set for myself in the first stage. So I thought about what I wanted from the app, and what motivated me was, adding those features and making everything work.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about the auto hack?
Nothing in particular, I guess. Actually, I'd be willing to work with you guys to improve tutorials if you're interested. I could help improve it for the next Iron hacks. So I think the tutorial could be improved. I noticed that someone posted like a post on the Black Iron Hacks forum about a bug in the tutorial. When you resize the page, the map stops showing up. So things like that. I'd be interested in working with you guys. Other than that, it was a really fun experience for me, so I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Daniel, thank you so much.
Thank you. This popped up, but I think it's okay.